Hello, friends. Take a look in the mirror tomorrow morning. While you're brushing your teeth or getting ready for another beautiful day of retirement, look closely at your hands, your forearms, and your forehead. You see those small, brownish patches? We call them age spots or liver spots, and most of us just laugh them off as a simple badge of honor for a life well lived in the sun. Maybe you're like Bill, a 68-year-old retired foreman from Scottsdale, Arizona. Bill spent his life building the American dream, enjoying weekend BBQs with his grandkids, and maintaining the most pristine lawn in the neighborhood. When he saw those spots appearing on his skin, he just shrugged. He thought it was just the wear and tear of a man who worked hard. But friends, what if I told you that this completely normal habit, this casual acceptance of old age marks, is actually a hidden ticking time bomb in your body? A bomb that could strip away your independence and land you in a nursing home faster than you can imagine? I'm not trying to scare you, but those spots are not just on the surface. Imagine your body is like a classic American V8 engine. On the outside, a little rust on the fender might seem like a cosmetic issue. But that rust is a signal. It tells you that the metal is oxidizing, that the structural integrity is failing, and that the engine underneath is likely choking on its own thick black sludge. When UV rays hit your skin, they do not just stop at the surface. They penetrate deep like microscopic bullets, shredding your cellular DNA and creating what we doctors call oxidative stress. It is literally your body rusting from the inside out. If your skin is showing these signs, it means your internal cleanup crew is overwhelmed. Bill ignored these signals until the day his doctor gave him a stern warning that his skin health was a window into his vascular system, warning him of the risk of medical bankruptcy from a sudden stroke. In today's video, I'm going to blow the whistle on this hidden danger. There is a lot of life-saving information today, so please stick with me until the very end. Before we dive into the dark truth, if you truly care about your health and maintaining your independence for years to come, please hit that subscribe button down below and turn on the notification bell. And if you find today's video helpful, type the words glowing and secure in the comments section below to support our community. Now, I want you to take a moment right now and look down at your hands. Go ahead, do it with me. Do you see them? Those little brown smudges, those tan patches we've been told for decades are just liver spots or wisdom spots. We laugh them off as a rite of passage, don't we? We call them a natural part of getting older. But friends, listen to me closely, because what I am about to tell you is something your standard checkup might completely overlook. Those spots are not just beauty marks of age. They are a desperate, flickering check engine light from your internal organs. They are the visible smoke from a fire that is currently gutting your cellular foundation. And if you ignore that smoke, you aren't just looking at wrinkled skin, you're looking at a fast track to a nursing home, a drained 401k, and a loss of independence that should terrify you. I want to tell you about a man named Robert Miller, but everyone in Scottsdale, Arizona just called him Bob. Now, Bob was the quintessential American success story. At 54, he was a semi-retired real estate agent who had spent his life closing deals under the desert sun. He was an avid golfer, a man who lived for the smell of freshly cut grass on the fairway and the sound of a perfect drive. He'd spent decades in the sun, and sure, his hands and temples were covered in those flat brown spots. To Bob, they were a desert badge of honor. He'd joke with his wife Linda that he was just turning into a speckled trout. He felt fine. He felt strong. He thought he was winning the game of life. But friends, Bob was walking around with a ticking time bomb strapped to his DNA, and he had no idea that his skin was trying to save his life by warning him. It happened during a high-stakes local tournament. The Arizona sun was beating down 104 degrees, but Bob had played in worse. On the ninth green, just as he was lining up a crucial putt, the world didn't just go blurry, it tilted. Bob felt a wave of fatigue so heavy, it was like his blood had suddenly turned into lead. His heart began to hammer against his ribs like a trapped bird. He tried to call out to his caddy, but his tongue felt thick. He collapsed right there on the grass, the desert heat baking him while his friends scrambled to call 911. Can you imagine the panic? The sirens wailing across the golf course, the paramedics cutting off his favorite polo shirt, the cold terror in Linda's eyes as she followed the ambulance. And then comes the part that keeps so many of us up at night, the ER. The flashing lights, the cold steel of the gurney, and the crushing realization that a single afternoon can wipe out your retirement savings. Bob lay there, hooked up to monitors, hearing the beeps and thinking about the out-of-network costs, the deductibles, and the terrifying possibility that he would never walk 18 holes again. He thought it was heat stroke. He was wrong. When the doctor came in, he didn't just talk about hydration. He looked at Bob's hands, those harmless age spots, and he sighed. He told Bob, "These spots were the first sign that your body's repair kit is broken. You see, those spots weren't just tan. They were a sign of systemic DNA repair failure. Bob wasn't just aging on the outside, he was rusting on the inside." I want us to slow this down. I want you to see what was happening inside Bob's body in slow motion, because this is happening inside millions of Americans right now. Does this sound familiar? You feel a little more tired, you see a few more spots, and you think it's just the calendar turning. Listen to me closely. When a UV ray from that hot sun hits your skin, it isn't just tanning you. It is a high-speed radioactive bullet. Imagine these bullets hitting the delicate double helix of your DNA inside your skin cells. In a healthy 20-year-old, the body has a janitorial crew of enzymes. They see the break in the DNA. They rush in, they snip out the damage, and they glue it back together. It's seamless. But as we cross that 55-plus threshold, and especially if we've had a lifetime of American living, the BBQs, the lawn mowing, the years of oxidative stress, that janitorial crew goes on strike. The zipper of your DNA gets stuck. When the DNA can't repair itself, the cell doesn't just die quietly. It becomes what we call a senescent cell. Doctors call these zombie cells. These zombie cells are trapped. They can't function, but they refuse to leave. To protect your deeper tissues from cancer, these cells start pumping out a dark pigment called melanin as a last-ditch shield. That's what your age spot is. It's a pile of cellular soot left over from a fire the body couldn't put out. But here's the terrifying part. Those zombie cells don't just sit there. They start secreting a toxic sludge of inflammatory proteins. Think of a V8 engine in a classic Ford. If you never change the oil, the heat starts to cook the fluid. It turns from a lubricant into a thick, black, gritty paste. That grit starts to scar the cylinder walls. It clogs the fuel lines. This is exactly what was happening in Bob's arteries. The same oxidative stress that created the spots on his hands was creating biological rust in his vascular system. When Bob collapsed on that ninth green, it wasn't just the heat. The markers of systemic inflammation in his blood were through the roof. His body was in a state of high alert, a permanent code red, because his DNA repair mechanisms had failed. Those spots were his body's way of saying, "Help, the trash disposal system is backed up, the engine is overheating." Friends, I am not fear-mongering when I tell you this. If you see these spots increasing, your body is struggling to manage oxidative stress. And if you don't address the internal rusting, you aren't just looking at a cosmetic issue. You're looking at the foundation of metabolic syndrome. You're looking at the precursor to the kind of cognitive decline that steals your memories and leaves you sitting in a chair, staring out a window, while your children have to sell your home to pay for a memory care facility. Is that the retirement you worked 40 years for? To have your 401k drained by $10,000 a month nursing home bills because you ignored the rust until the engine seized. Bob Miller got a wake-up call that nearly cost him everything. He spent 3 days in the hospital, and when he saw the itemized bill, the thousands of dollars for scans and specialized blood work, he realized that his badge of honor was actually a debt collector. The doctor gave him a stern warning. Bob, if you don't change how you protect your cells, the next time you fall, you won't be getting back up to finish the round. You'll be learning how to use a walker. That fear, the fear of losing his mobility, of being a burden to Linda, of not being able to pick up his grandkids, that changed everything. Bob stopped seeing those spots as natural. He realized they were a symptom of a deeper, invisible rot. He started an intensive regimen of high-potency antioxidants to mop up the rusting free radicals and began a strict protocol of internal and external UV protection. He had to clean his internal engine. You won't believe this, but once Bob addressed the internal inflammation, once he gave his body the tools to fix the DNA zippers, he didn't just feel better. His skin actually started to clear. His energy returned. He wasn't just surviving, he was thriving. But he had to stop the sludge from building up first. So, I'm asking you again, look at your hands. Are you looking at wisdom spots, or are you looking at a warning sign? Don't wait for the ninth green. Don't wait for the 911 call. Your body is speaking to you. The question is, are you brave enough to listen before the rust takes over? Because you deserve a retirement where you're in the driver's seat, not one where you're being pushed in a wheelchair toward a future you can't remember. Stay with me, because we are going to break down exactly how to flush that sludge out of your system. Driver's seat, not one where you're being pushed in a wheelchair toward a future you can't remember. Stay with me, because we are going to break down exactly how to flush that sludge out of your system. Friends, I want you to do something for me right now. I want you to stop what you're doing and look down at your hands. Look at the back of your forearms. Do you see them? Those little brown patches? Maybe they're the size of a freckle, or maybe they've started to spread and merge like oil stains on a driveway. You've probably been told they're just age spots. You might even call them liver spots or wisdom spots. You think they're just a cosmetic nuisance? Something you can cover up with a bit of concealer or an over-the-counter brightening cream before you head out to the neighborhood BBQ? Listen to me closely. You are being lied to. Those spots are not just a sign that you've spent a few too many summers at the beach. They are a loud screaming siren from your internal organs. They are a visible check engine light flashing on the dashboard of your body. And if you keep ignoring them, you aren't just risking a few wrinkles. You are risking your independence. You are risking the very real possibility of ending up in a state-funded nursing home, watching your hard-earned 401k vanish into the pockets of a corporate healthcare conglomerate while someone you don't know has to help you get dressed in the morning. Does this sound familiar? Let's talk about Linda Garrett. Linda is 62 years old, living down in Naples, Florida. She's a retired school librarian, a dedicated gardener who prides herself on having the best hibiscus bushes in the county, and a woman who never misses a Saturday morning volunteering at the local food bank. Linda is the glue that holds her family together. But Linda had these spots. They started on her chest, right where the V-neck of her gardening shirt sat, and they began to crawl down her arms. To Linda, they were just part of getting older. She was so busy worrying about her husband's blood pressure and her grandkids' soccer games that she just brushed them off. She thought, I'll deal with my skin when I have time. But what Linda didn't realize, and what you need to understand right now, is that those spots were the external manifestation of a biological war happening inside her cells. One sweltering July afternoon, Linda was out in her yard, mulching the flower beds. The Florida humidity was thick, the kind of heat that feels like a wet wool blanket. Suddenly the world started to tilt. Her heart, which had always been a steady drumbeat, began to thrash in her chest like a trapped bird. It wasn't a sharp pain, but a terrifying hollowness, a shortness of breath that made her feel like she was drowning on dry land. She collapsed onto her grass, the very lawn she spent hours perfecting, clutching at her chest. In that moment of pure, cold panic, Linda wasn't thinking about her age spots. She was thinking, who will take care of Gary? Is this how it ends? Am I going to lose my house to pay for a hospital bed? The 911 call was a blur. The sirens, the paramedics cutting her favorite shirt, the cold, sterile smell of the ER. It's a nightmare every American over 55 prays they never have to live through. When the cardiac team ran their tests, they were puzzled. There was no massive blockage, no widowmaker clot. But her arteries? They weren't the flexible, pulsing tubes they should be. They were stiff,
brittle.
The doctor called in a specialist, a dermatologist who looks beyond the surface. He took one look at the advanced photoaging on Linda's chest, those harmless spots, and he knew exactly what was wrong. He told her, Linda, the sun didn't just tan your skin. It triggered a cascade of oxidative stress that has turned your cellular machinery into a graveyard of rusted parts. Now, friends, I want to take you into the slow-motion analysis of what was actually happening inside Linda and what is likely happening inside you right now if you see those spots on your skin. Just like we saw earlier with the thickening of the blood, this process is a relentless step-by-step destruction of your vitality. Imagine your cells are like a high-performance American-made V8 engine. For decades, that engine has been humming, powering your heart, your brain, and your lungs. But every time you walk out into the sun without protection, or you eat processed heart-healthy oils, or you deal with chronic stress, you're letting grit and sand into the oil tank. Specifically, let's look at a process called lipid peroxidation. Think of the fat molecules that make up the walls of your cells. They are supposed to be soft, supple, and protective. But when UV radiation or internal toxins hit those fats, it's like a spark hitting a puddle of gasoline. A single free radical and unstable, angry little oxygen molecule smashes into the cell wall. It doesn't just stop there. It steals an electron from its neighbor, creating another free radical. This is a chain reaction, a slow-motion explosion. In your skin, this damage causes your melanocytes, the cells that produce pigment, to go into a frantic, panicked overdrive. They start pumping out melanin like a broken fire hydrant, trying to shield the DNA from further damage. That clump of excess pigment is what you see as an age spot. But here is the terrifying truth. That same rusting process is happening in your vascular system. Just like we saw earlier, those same free radicals are attacking the endothelium, the delicate Teflon-like lining of your arteries. When that lining gets rusted by oxidative stress, it can't produce nitric oxide. Your blood vessels can't relax. They become stiff, like an old frozen garden hose that cracks when you try to bend it. The medical term for this is systemic oxidative debt. Your body is literally rusting from the inside out. Those spots on Linda's arms were a visual representation of the stiffness in her heart's valves. Her skin was showing the world that her internal plumbing was becoming clogged with cellular debris. Listen to me closely. This isn't just about looking old. This is about the ticking time bomb of cellular decay. When your cells are under this kind of oxidative siege, they stop being able to clean themselves out. Imagine your kitchen sink. Usually you run the disposal and the scraps go away. But in a body covered in age spots, the disposal is broken. The scraps, the metabolic waste, start to pile up. This waste is called lipofuscin. It's a sludge of oxidized fats and proteins that builds up in your brain, your heart, and your skin. In the skin, it shows up as those brown patches. In the brain, it's a precursor to the plaques and tangles that steal your memories and leave you staring blankly at your children's faces, wondering who they are. Linda sat in that hospital bed, looking at the bill for the emergency cardiac workup, a bill that was already spiraling into the thousands of dollars, and she realized that her vanity issue was actually a survival issue. The doctor was stern. He told her that if she didn't address the systemic inflammation and the oxidative damage, she wasn't looking at another 20 years of gardening. She was looking at a wheelchair. She was looking at a future where she would have to liquidate her 401k just to pay for someone to help her use the restroom. Friends, I am not fear-mongering. I am telling you the truth that the big pharmaceutical companies don't want you to know, because there's no miracle pill that can instantly reverse decades of cellular rust. They want you to keep buying the expensive creams that only bleach the surface while the fire continues to rage underneath. You won't believe this, but the same mechanism that causes your skin to spot is the same mechanism that causes your brain to fog and your joints to ache. It is all connected. Your body is a single, integrated machine. If the V8 engine has rust on the exterior, you can bet your bottom dollar there is sludge in the fuel lines. So how do we stop the rust? How do we take a woman like Linda, or a man like you watching at home, and turn back the clock? We have to move beyond the surface. We have to talk about how to quench those free radicals before they can tear holes in your vascular walls. We have to discuss how to support your body's natural waste management system so that lipofuscin sludge can finally be cleared out of your system. Just like we saw with the blood-thinning mechanisms we discussed earlier, the goal here is fluidity. We want fluid skin, fluid blood, and a fluid mind. You do not want to be the person who ignores the spots until the day your heart decides it's had enough of pumping through rusty pipes. Stay with me, because I'm going to show you the exact steps to take to start repairing this damage at the molecular level. We're going to talk about the specific nutrients that act like a rust remover for your cells and how you can start seeing a difference not just in the mirror, but in your energy levels and your blood pressure readings. You deserve a retirement characterized by travel and joy, not by medical bankruptcy and the four walls of an assisted living facility. Listen to me, friends. Your skin is talking to you. It's time you finally started listening. Because once that internal rust takes hold, once that V8 engine seizes up, no amount of money in your retirement account can buy back the life you've lost. Let's get to work on fixing the damage before it's too late. That internal rust takes hold, once that V8 engine seizes up, no amount of money in your retirement account can buy back the life you've lost. Let's get to work on fixing the damage before it's too late. Friends, I want to tell you about a man named Jim Peterson. Jim is 68 years old, living just outside of Portland, Oregon. Now, Jim isn't the kind of guy who spends his time worrying about moisturizing or looking in the mirror. He's a retired construction foreman, a real man's man who spent 40 years under the sun, pouring concrete and raising skyscrapers. To Jim, those dark, brownish-gray spots appearing on the back of his hands and across his forehead were just badges of honor. He called them wisdom spots. He laughed when his wife, Linda, told him he should see a dermatologist. He'd say, "Linda, I'm an old dog. I don't need a spa day." Does this sound familiar? Maybe you've got a few of those spots yourself. Maybe you think they're just a natural part of getting older, like gray hair or a creaky knee. But listen to me closely. Jim's wisdom spots were actually a silent alarm, a red light flashing on the dashboard of his entire body that he was choosing to ignore. One Saturday afternoon, Jim was doing what he always did, driving to the local hardware store to pick up some supplies for a backyard BBQ. He'd driven this exact same route for 30 years. He knew every pothole, every stoplight, every turn. But as he sat at a red light just 3 blocks from his house, something terrifying happened. He looked at the street sign and it looked like gibberish. He looked at the houses around him and he didn't recognize a single one. His heart started hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. The tough guy was suddenly paralyzed by a cold, numbing fear. He didn't know where he was, he didn't know where he was going, and for a split second he couldn't remember Linda's name. He managed to pull over, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white, staring at those dark-age spots on his hands. He was hyperventilating, the panic of a stroke or a brain bleed flooding his system. When Linda found him, he was sitting in the driveway an hour later, still staring at nothing. She called 911 immediately. In the ER, Jim wasn't just worried about his health. He was thinking about the bills. He was thinking about his 401k, the money they'd saved for their grandkids' college, and the terrifying cost of those specialized memory care facilities in Oregon that can run $12,000 a month. He was terrified that he was about to become a burden, that he'd end up in a place where people would have to wipe his chin and lead him to the bathroom. Now, you won't believe what the specialist found. After the neurological scans and the skin biopsies, the lead doctor sat Jim and Linda down. He didn't start with Jim's brain. He started with Jim's skin. He pointed to those harmless age spots. He told Jim, "These aren't just cosmetic marks. These are the visible evidence that your body's DNA repair system has collapsed." I want us to slow down right here and look at the slow motion analysis of what was actually happening inside Jim's cells, because this is what is happening inside you right now if you see these spots. Imagine your skin cells are like a high-performance V8 engine. For decades, Jim's engine was pelted with UV radiation. Think of those UV rays not as light, but as microscopic, high-velocity bullets. Every time Jim stood on that construction site without protection, millions of these bullets were tearing through his skin, slamming into the delicate double helix of his DNA. Now, normally your body has a repair crew of enzymes. They're like mechanics that rush in to weld the DNA back together. But after 60 years of constant bombardment, Jim's repair crews were exhausted. They were out of parts. They couldn't keep up. When the DNA in a skin cell gets hit and doesn't get fixed, that cell starts to malfunction. It begins to overproduce pigment, that's the melanin, as a desperate last-ditch effort to create a shield. That's what an age spot is. It's a pile of cellular debris left over from a failed repair job. It's like a pile of scorched earth where a battle was lost. Here's the part that should make you sit up and pay attention. The doctor explained to Jim that the biological exhaust from these failing skin cells, what we call oxidative stress, doesn't just stay on the surface. It's systemic. Think of it like a house with a rusted, leaking roof. You might think it's just the roof, but that water is seeping into the insulation. It's rotting the wooden beams, and eventually it hits the electrical wiring and shorts out the entire house. In Jim's body, the same oxidative pathways that were creating those dark clusters on his face were also creating a fire of inflammation in his blood vessels. This cellular rust was traveling through his bloodstream and crossing the blood-brain barrier. Inside Jim's brain, this rust was causing his neurons to misfire. It was contributing to the buildup of toxic proteins, the very same plaques we see in early-stage cognitive decline. The doctor told him, "Jim, your skin was the canary in the coal mine. It was trying to tell us that your body has lost its ability to manage DNA damage. If your body can't fix a simple sunspot on your hand, how can it fix the delicate tissues in your hippocampus?" Friends, I am not fear-mongering when I tell you this. An age spot is a visual confirmation that your internal anti-rust system is failing. It means your V8 engine is running hot, the oil is turning into thick, black sludge, and the pistons are starting to seize. When Jim had that moment of darkness in his car, it wasn't a random event. It was the result of years of cumulative cellular neglect that started on the surface and moved deep into his command center. Does this sound familiar? Do you look in the mirror and see just a few spots? I need you to understand that those spots are a 911 call from your DNA. If you ignore them, you aren't just risking a wrinkle. You're risking the very independence you've worked your whole life to secure. You're risking your 401k being drained by a nursing home because you didn't address the internal fire that those spots represent. The good news, and there is good news, is that we can stop the rust. We can provide the body with the specific replacement parts those repair crews need to start welding the DNA back together. We can flush the sludge out of the engine and get that V8 humming again. But you have to stop thinking of your skin as something separate from your brain. They are made of the same embryonic tissue. They are connected. What happens to one happens to the other. Jim Peterson got lucky. That day in the car was a wake-up call that didn't end in a fatal crash or a permanent disability. He started a protocol to address the oxidative stress from the inside out, and today he's back to mowing his lawn and watching football with his grandkids. But he'll tell you himself he waited until the engine was smoking before he checked the oil. Don't wait for the panic. Don't wait for the moment you forget your own driveway. Listen to what your skin is screaming at you. Because once that cellular damage reaches the point of no return, once that V8 truly seizes up, there isn't a doctor in the world who can put those pieces back together. We are going to talk right now about the 3 life-saving rules you must follow to quench this fire and protect your future. There isn't a doctor in the world who can put those pieces back together once that cellular foundation crumbles. Friends, I want you to look at me and listen to me very closely right now, because what I'm about to say could be the difference between spending your golden years on a cruise ship or spending them in a sterile, white-walled room waiting for a nurse to help you sit up. We have seen what happened to Bob in Arizona, collapses on the golf course because he thought those spots on his hands were just a desert badge of honor. We saw Linda in Florida, whose heart was literally stiffening behind those dark patches on her chest. And Jim, a man who built this country with his own 2 hands, losing his way home because his skin was screaming that his brain was under attack. Do not let their stories be your story. I am not fear-mongering when I tell you that your skin is the largest organ in your body, and it is the only one that has the decency to tell you when you're rusting from the inside out. Those age spots, they aren't just pigment. They are the visible smoke from a fire burning deep in your DNA. But here's the good news. You don't need a $1 million 401k to put that fire out. You don't need expensive lasers that cost $5,000 a session. You can start reversing this damage today for the price of a cup of tea or a walk around the block. These are the 3 life-saving rules you must implement tonight if you want to keep your independence and keep your family's future secure. Rule number 1 is what I call the internal antioxidant flood. I want you to imagine your bloodstream right now. If you have those dark spots, your blood isn't the free-flowing, life-giving river it should be. Instead, because of years of oxidative stress, it's becoming more like thick, black sludge. When UV rays hit your skin, they create these tiny, microscopic vandals called free radicals. Imagine them like pinballs bouncing around inside your cells, smashing into your DNA strands, snapping them like dry twigs. Your body tries to patch the damage, but eventually it runs out of materials, and that's when the rust, the age spot, appears. To stop this, you need to flood your system with a specific type of biological rust remover that costs pennies. Starting tomorrow morning, I want you to brew a strong cup of organic green tea, but here is the secret step. You must squeeze half a fresh lemon into it. Why? Because the vitamin C in that lemon acts like a chemical key that unlocks the antioxidants in the tea, making them 5 times more absorbable by your gut. When you drink this, visualize those antioxidants traveling through your arteries, grabbing those pinball free radicals and neutralizing them before they can snap another strand of DNA. Bob from Scottsdale started doing this every single morning before he hit the links, and within 6 months, his systemic inflammation markers, the ones that caused his collapse, dropped by 40%. This isn't just tea, it is a molecular shield for your heart and your brain. Rule number 2 is about clearing the cellular trash, and this costs you absolutely nothing. Does this sound familiar? You wake up feeling stiff, your skin looks dull, and those spots seem darker than they did yesterday. That is because your lymphatic system, the plumbing of your body, has become clogged with cellular debris. Think of it like a kitchen sink that hasn't been snaked in 30 years. When that trash sits in your tissues, it creates a toxic environment that accelerates skin aging and, more importantly, arterial stiffness, like we saw with Linda in Naples. To fix this, I want you to perform what I call the 2-minute drainage every night before bed. While you're sitting on the edge of your mattress, take the palms of your hands and gently, with almost no pressure, stroke from your ears down to your collarbone. Then move to your arms and stroke from your wrists up toward your armpits. We are talking about slow motion movement here. What you are doing is manually pushing that toxic sludge back into your circulatory system so your kidneys can flush it out of your body. If you don't do this, those toxins stay trapped against your vascular walls, causing them to harden like old PVC pipes. Linda started this simple routine, and her doctors were stunned to find her arterial elasticity actually improving. She went from being a cardiac risk to having the heart of a woman 10 years younger, all because she decided to clean her internal plumbing. Rule number 3 is the most critical for your brain, and it addresses the terrifying path that Jim from Portland found himself on. We have to talk about the canary in the coal mine. When you see dense clusters of age spots on your temples and your forehead, that is a direct map of the oxidative stress occurring in your prefrontal cortex. Your brain and your skin are made from the exact same embryonic tissue. They are biological cousins. If the skin is failing, the brain is struggling to keep the lights on. To protect your memory and your cognitive independence, you must implement a light-dark reset to trigger your body's natural DNA repair enzymes, which only activate during deep, restorative sleep. Most of you are sleeping in rooms that are too bright, or you're looking at your phone until 11 p.m. That blue light tells your brain it's high noon, which completely shuts down the production of melatonin, the most powerful DNA-repairing hormone you have. It's like sending the construction crew home just as the building starts to crumble. I want you to go to your local pharmacy and buy a simple roll of black electrical tape for $2. Cover every single little glowing LED light in your bedroom, the smoke detector, the TV standby light, the alarm clock. Your room must be a tomb of total darkness. When you sleep in total darkness, your brain triggers a slow-motion wash called the glymphatic system. It's like a power washer for your neurons, scrubbing away the plaques that lead to the disorientation Jim experienced. Jim's wife started enforcing this blackout rule, and within weeks, Jim wasn't just more alert. His skin actually started to regain its luster because his body finally had the night shift it needed to repair the DNA damage. Listen to me, friends. These spots on your skin are a gift. They are a warning light on the dashboard of your life telling you to pull over before the engine explodes. You don't have to be a victim of your age. You don't have to watch your retirement savings vanish into the pockets of a long-term care facility. By drinking that lemon-infused tea, by draining your lymphatic system every night, and by reclaiming the darkness of your bedroom, you are taking a stand. You're telling the world that you're keeping your mobility, you're keeping your mind, and you're keeping your dignity. I am not asking you to spend a fortune. I'm asking you to value your life enough to make these small, simple changes. Look at those spots in the mirror tomorrow morning and don't see a cosmetic flaw. See a call to action. You have the power to stop the rust. You have the power to quench the fire. Let's start right now. All right, friends, that's all for today's topic. Before we go, let's do a quick recap of the most important life-saving takeaways. Please etch these into your memory. Number 1, those age spots are not just beauty marks of the elderly, they are visible indicators of internal oxidative stress and DNA damage that could be happening throughout your entire system. Number 2, cumulative UV exposure is a systemic burden. If your skin is struggling to repair itself, your internal organs might be facing the same rusting process, which can lead to the chronic inflammation that fuels dementia and heart disease. Number 3, taking action now by protecting your skin and boosting your internal antioxidants isn't about vanity. It's about protecting your 401k from being liquidated for nursing home care and ensuring you stay mobile and independent for decades to come. My friends, true health isn't an unreachable goal. It's hidden in the tiny choices we make every single day. I hope today's guide truly hits home for you. If you found this helpful, please don't be stingy. Give this video a big thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel and share this video with your family and friends. Your single share might literally save a life and keep a family whole. I'll see you in the next video.